Welcome to the channel, fellow Elder Scrollers. I have opinions about the least interesting quests in Oblivion, and I wanted to tell you about them. It's a bit different to the Reading the Lore series, but I do enjoy writing essays like the true nerd I am, so if you'll suffer me for a while, we'll find out if I'm any good at it. Quest 1. Deliver the amulet. Okay, so remember the first time you played the opening to Oblivion? You meet Valandreth, who basically spews hate speech at you. Then you meet Patrick Stewart, the Emperor himself. Discover that your cell is a secret escape room from the Imperial City. Run into a trap set by a secretive cult set on killing said Emperor. Pick your way past goblins and traps and a shaman. And then finally, watch the cult succeed in killing the Emperor, witnessing how disappointed your boy Boris is.
Oblivion take you.
You chose.
No. Talos save us. We failed. I failed.
This sets up the start of an RPG in a compelling way. You see who the main bad guys are, learn some of what they want, give you a reason to hate them. I mean, who doesn't love Patrick Stewart?
You are the one from my dreams.
And then you're tasked with helping the Blades put a stop to them. The problem is, the first thing you do upon finally leaving the sewer system is get a part-time job as a courier and have to hand-deliver the Amulet of Kings to a priest in Waynon Priory, all the way in Coral, which is the far side of the map from where you start. You see an ancient-looking magical ruin ahead of you, idyllic landscapes all around you, and the imposing walls of the city you just escaped from. But you're tasked with ignoring this and doing your best Amazon delivery person impression and rush off to deliver the shiny jewellery to a monk. Not only is this quite underwhelming, given everything you've just gone through and achieved already, but the way the menus are laid out makes it super easy to just fast travel there instantly, which, in an explorative game with so much to offer, is a problem. This could have been solved fairly easily if given just a little more thought. On a mechanical level, the fast travel from the get-go probably shouldn't have been in the game, and they did fix that in Skyrim to be fair. In a more story-focused way, they could have given you some more options on how to deliver it. Maybe you can pop to the city and hire a courier to send it off, which gets intercepted by the Mythic Dawn and you have to get it back. Maybe we could have convinced Boris to come with us, and he could have introduced us to some more of the Blades. Perhaps the Mythic Dawn members could have realised their crack team failed in securing the amulet, and now you're being hunted down on your travels by them, avoiding ambushes and fighting your way to the next stage of the quest. All this is to say that despite the A+ opening act in Oblivion, the first part of the main quest thereafter is fairly tame. It even taunts you by making you hand over the amulet, and then it immediately gets stolen back from the monk, which just feels like a kick in the teeth at that point. Quest 2. A Brush with Death. Okay, so this one I've always had a love-hate relationship with. The premise is, actually, I think, pretty awesome. As you're exploring in Cheydinhal, you might hear some rumours about how a woman named Tivella is devastated because her husband has gone missing. It doesn't look like the Watch are being an awful lot of help, so perhaps she's in need of the hero of Kvatch to save the day once again. After meeting her and discussing it in some detail, she lets you know that it's a locked room mystery. Lythe is a painter and often locks himself away in his study, but it had been a couple of days and she had got worried. So after going in herself, she was terrified to learn he'd just vanished. This has all the makings so far of quite the head-scratcher puzzle. After doing some investigating, you find that you can actually interact with one of the paintings in the room, and this sends you into the painting itself. You discover that Lythe is so good at painting because of a special brush he uses that actually lets him go into the world and add intricate details to it. Unfortunately, a thief stole the brush from him and painted in some trolls to act as bodyguards.
A thief had snatched my paintbrush. That's when I saw it. There was something on the canvas of my painting that I hadn't put there. It looked somewhat like a troll, but it was badly done.
To be fair, they are very effective bodyguards. They immediately kill the thief and guard his body to the death. This is where the quest stops being compelling and starts being underwhelming. You've been given a bottle of turpentine, which in the painting is basically poison, and are asked to go kill the trolls so you can both leave and you collect the brush again. While the painting world looks quite interesting, there's basically nothing here except for these painted trolls. It's basic and dull and more of an inconvenience than an epic adventure in a made-up world. This could have been so much cooler than it was. Maybe the thief could have used the brush to quickly paint himself a wider variety of things to protect him. Flying Daedra, melting Cerberus, Jackson Pollock-themed blob monsters. Perhaps he managed to draw a bridge to another painting in the room, leading to a chase down across various painted landscapes with different physics and decor, like reduced gravity or clouds you can jump across. The range of things you can do in a painted, magical world are quite literally infinite. It's just a shame that you only have to fight some low poly trolls, sometimes only one if you take the shortcut as well, and are literally given a super effective poison to do it with. Quest 3. Go fish. Okay, so this one I honestly only did once, and I regretted it once I realised I'm never getting that time back. You only get one life in this world. This is it. Spend your time wisely, and don't bother with this one if you replay the game. One of the greatest things about Oblivion is being able to explore a bit off the beaten track. The main cities are fascinating and compelling in their own right, but stumbling into the smaller villages and settlements dotted around are often where the most interesting things happen. This is not one of those times. You find yourself in the small settlement of Wei, a quaint little village to the west of the Imperial City. It's picturesque and near the Rumer River, a lovely place to retire if you make it that long in this world. Taking a leisurely stroll through the village, you meet a gentleman by the name of Aelwyn, who's doing his best to live that very dream and is working to retire. He's a fisherman by trade and has a deal with an alchemist in the city. If he can provide some specific slaughterfish scales, the Rumer slaughterfish, then he'll get paid enough to finally kick back and live out the rest of his days chilling in Wei. On his penultimate fishing trip, however, he clearly forgets that something called a slaughterfish probably got its name through violence rather than through poetry, and he gets his leg all messed up. If you chat to him, he asks for your help on collecting the final shipment's worth of scales for him, and he'll cut you into the deal. Sounds like a very befitting task for the hero of Kvatch. And herein lies the problem. You now have to spend the next X amount of time ambling through the local river, chasing after a dodgy quest marker, and fighting fish in the water. If you're a mage, you quickly learn that no ranged spells work here, only touch. And if you're an archer, you realise you can't stealth archer your way out of this one easily. Not only does it limit your playstyles and take away some of your agency, given you could have spec'd your character however you like, but it's just not very engaging. The fish spawn one after the other, they're a bit quick and only medium nasty, but it takes all the boring bits of combat and forces it into the water, one of the least compelling parts of the game. What was needed here was to rehaul this quest. Perhaps all the fish in the river have been eaten by a predator, and it was this predator that caused the injury to our boy Aelwyn. Now you have to explore this unknown Jaws-like entity, maybe find a hidden underwater cavern and track it to its lair, finally gutting it and taking the scales from its entrails when you emerge victorious. A unique enemy and setting would have elevated this quest, but honestly, I'd just settle for only having to kill, 3 fish rather than 12. God, I aged doing this. It's not helped by the fact it's notoriously bugged, so often the fish don't spawn in quickly or at all, and you have to leave the area and come back when it's sorted itself back out. Quest 4. A Venerable Vintage. Wei is an unfortunate place, as it's now featuring for a second time on the list of the most boring quests in Oblivion. Whilst I'm not personally on the wine hype, I can understand people's fascinations with old vintages. I'm told they often taste better than the modern stuff. I can't tell you the difference personally, I think people lie about this to sound smart, but what do I know? Popping into the Walnet Inn, we speak to Narusa.
Welcome to the Walnut Inn. Could I interest you in a room or perhaps a bit of wine?
Like many of us, she has a hobby, which, in her case, is pretending she's not an alcoholic and collecting vintage wines. Apparently, everyone in this specific town is already acting like they're in the later stages of their life, between fishing and wine collecting. Because the hero of Kvatch is a very generous person, and quite likes the idea of being paid handsomely for special wine, they agree to return with the bottles they find on their travels. Now, to be fair to this quest, I think it's a little less tedious than the others we've covered. Typically you find the wines in quite interesting places across Cyrodiil. There's Fort Grief, Fort Irony, Fort Vlasterus. I'm sure you're seeing the theme here, they're all in forts, except for the 2 additional bottles added with the official plugins Battlehorn Castle and Frostcrag Spire. The good news is that these forts are actually interesting places for the most part. Fort Vlasterus has vampires chilling in it. Fort Grief is part of a super fun quest where you get duped into becoming real-life prey and have to fight your way out of the gauntlet of mercenaries. The reason this made it to the list is because while the bottles are in interesting places, that's nothing to do with the quest itself. None of these locations are interesting because of the collection quest. They're interesting for other quest reasons, and these were just snuck in as an additional aside. My personal preference would be to make this its own priority. Perhaps instead of them being dotted around the place, another collector has them all, and you have to bargain or steal from him. This could lead to ethical dilemmas or combat. Maybe when you start collecting them, someone hears about it and tries to steal them from you, ambushing you or picking your pocket, and then you have to hunt them back down before they collect your reward. The quest itself could have been more engaging, and not just a simple collect jobby. Not the worst one on the list, but disappointing in its own right, I think.
You actually found 6!
Quest 5. Seeking Your Roots. If we're all honest with each other, this might well be the single most tedious quest in any Elder Scrolls game. Maybe any game, even outside of the series. Whoever was responsible for making me do this, I hope you step on Lego Christmas morning this year. Okay, so wandering around Cyrodiil, maybe even when we're fishing, you're almost certain to come across these weird-looking plants called Nirnroot. Nirn is the name of the planet the Elder Scrolls takes place on, so Nirnroot is a pretty good name. Once you grab one, you get a journal entry telling you to investigate it further. Your investigations take you to a couple false starts in various towns, but eventually to Sindarian in Skingrad. The Leaf Man himself tells you he's familiar with these, and they're very special. If you can collect 10 of them, he'll give you a potion. Okay, collecting 10 of a plant, not a big deal. Not gripping gameplay by any means, but honestly could be a lot worse. Besides, 10 just isn't that many of something. You plod along the waterfront, finding weird identical herbs, until you successfully have enough to bring back to our boy. Upon doing so, he gives you a weak-ass potion of Night Eye and Fortify Health he's made with them, lasting 5 minutes. Woo!
Most of them were worthless.
Then, he mentions that if only he had more of these things, he could make a stronger potion for you. So our hero pops back out to the big bad world, collecting an additional 20, that's not including the first 10 you already got. And when we're done, we think, thank God for that, now for a decent potion as a reward. Maybe I can use it for a boss fight or something. This time, you get Night Eye, Fortify Health, and Fortify Fatigue for 20 points, also for 5 minutes. I can see where this is going now. Again, he says he can do so much better if only he had yet more magical roots of despair. Go find another 30? Jesus Christ, fine, it better be worth it. This time, you get the potion. It does the same as the last one, but also fortifies Blade, Blunt, Restoration, Destruction, Security, and Sneak by 5. Now, While this might sound kinda cool, tell me exactly how it's useful. 5-point boost is better than 0-point boost, but when do I need random stat increases like that on such a wide variety? Surely I'm better off just doing 1 or 2 of those things well, and not having just collected a total of 60 Nern roots first. So there's a rule in video games: things come in threes. 3 throws into bombs to kill Bowser in Mario 64. Dragon Age has 3 dragons to kill. We do this because stopping at 2 sounds incomplete, like me starting that list and not giving you a third example. Unfortunately, this quest ignored this advice and followed a rule of 4. Finally, Sindarian hits us with the "if only I had yet more Nern root, I could make a mega awesome potion for you." We bites because surely, after collecting a total of 100 of these blue lettuces, we're going to get something actually good. So, another hour or so of listening for the world's most annoying sound, investigating all around the lakes and rivers of Cyrodiil, getting distracted and frustrated because apparently the continent is determined to interrupt my gathering quest with mud crabs every 20 seconds. We've done it. We've finally collected another 40 Nern roots, for a whopping 100 altogether. Sindarian the lad awaits, and after praising us for doing this for him,
Here it is, my pride and joy.
he presents us with the results of our labour. Okay, deep breath in here. Night Eye, Fortify Health 20, Fortify Fatigue 20, Fortify Blade, Blunt, Restoration, Destruction, Security and Sneak by 10 for 5 minutes. Now, I don't know about you, but I spend enough of my actual life doing tedious work for little reward, and I don't crack open a beloved RPG to do the same. I come here because I want to go kill stuff, explore a land unlike my own, and generally have a fun time. I have weeds in my back garden I could pluck and get a better reward from. Well, having a slightly tidier garden I suppose counts. This could have been improved in so many ways. Maybe there's a rival collector of Nernroot that's also an expert alchemist, and he can use them to make cool poisons, which he intends to make use of in bad ways. Now you have a dilemma. Do you help Sindarian or this guy? Maybe a species of rare animal eats Nernroot specifically, and the more we pick, the more damage it does to them. Now it's another moral quandary. Do I keep going and get the potions, or do I stop and save a species? To wrap up, I love Oblivion. It's been my most favourite game of all time, right up until Baldur's Gate 3 came out last year, so now it's joint first. There's so much good and fun and nostalgia I have with it. I just thought it would be fun to look at some of the less interesting parts too, for balance or something. All this is to say that despite the criticisms I've been making, I don't actually think it makes it a bad game or a waste of time. I just fancied making another video essay, and hopefully you found some entertainment here too. Did I miss any other painfully boring quests in the game? Maybe you disagreed with some of my list. Perhaps you're a sadist who loved collecting the Nernroots. Let me know why I'm wrong below if you fancy it. See you next time.